Welcome everybody to the Sean and Shannon Power Hour, sans Shannon plus Clayton. We've been on and off with these power hours because life is busy, but happy that we're jumping in tonight to talk about the last session of Adrift in Aldhalor. And maybe we could talk a little bit about the session right before that as well. We're gonna do our usual recaps.
Sean, I only planned for last session. I got nothing on the other before that.
Don't worry, I got your back. I got your back. I've got that DM long memory, but also for short-term memory. But before we get started on that, Clayton, how was your week? How are you doing?
Good. Things are all right. You know, can't wait for tomorrow. Getting real excited for our new little arc, exploring the new town of Stony Heath.
I'm very excited for that. And
that map, Sean?
That map will depend entirely on how busy I am at work tomorrow.
All right.
Otherwise,
honestly,
we may have to use my crude map.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was happy with the crude map. Just like, you know, make it bigger so I could read it.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so maybe we just jump right into it. What the hell happened last week?
All right, so we just finished kicking some fish butt in a mysterious shipwreck that we found in a random bay that apparently nobody's ever seen before. It kind of just appeared out of nowhere, which was like a shock to me. But from exploring that area, we found ourselves a strange creature. I'm not sure how you generally described it, but it was like a dragon turtle adjacent giraffe.
I kept saying it was a dragon. I'm trying to come up with like a simple way to say it instead of continuing to create a hybrid between sea serpent and dragon turtle. It's essentially
like a dinosaur that like
it's like truthfully it's like a shelled mosasaur, I feel. Or not mosasaur. What's the
It starts with a P.
Yeah.
Plesiosaur?
I think you're right. Yep, plesiosaur. Yeah, it's like
plesiosaurus?
Yeah, it's like a shelled plesiosaurus. That's actually what I should have been describing it as this whole time. But like capable of like pulling its neck deeper into the shell. But yes, that's okay. Excellent. I'm glad we hashed that out. That this has now become a problem-solving session, as now I can describe him more accurately.
I'm good for two things. I'm good for dinosaurs and I'm good for seafaring knowledge.
Excellent.
But yeah, we found this plesiosaur with the shell, and it turned out to be a young, powerful creature that was hibernating in this mysterious cave where we were fighting some Sahagwans, which is, I think, the correct pronunciation that
it is.
Sean keeps fumbling on.
I don't know what it is. I can't get it, even though like several times before that session I said it to myself correctly. Sahagan. It's just my brain wants to be like do a lot of like ows in there, like Sauaugen. You know, my brain wants to do that, but it's pretty simple.
I mean, I just know it because that's what they call it in Final Fantasy XIV, but it could be something else. Like, I don't know where the iterations were originally. So I tried to Google it once and there was a lot of contention.
So then the thing that I realized, so there is okay, I just misspelled it. On D&D Beyond, there is like a pronunciation button that will say it for you.
Sahuagin.
And also, I think Matthew Mercer voices it because I just clicked on it, and it actually said Sahuagin.
Yeah, I hate that. I'm sorry to
say. So I think I always my instinct is to say Sahaugen. Sahaugen is definitely the easiest way to say it though, and I think sounds the best. But I'm gonna play that one more time for the audience to hear Matthew Mercer say it in a weird way.
Sahuagin.
He says it so enthusiastically too. He's like, Sahuagin. I wonder if he did this for...
Sahuagin Baron.
I think that was Marisha Ray. I just did a different creature. Sorry.
Well, you have a lot of content on the thing. It's okay. We could get sidetracked.
I'm just...
Sahuagin Baron.
All right, I'll stop.
But yeah, I mean... I all I know is I got a lot of tribe rep from them, and they gave me a cool mount at some point. Honestly, I think it was a manta ray. It was pretty dope.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
But yeah, we talked to this creature, and it was kind of chill. Didn't really like me very much. Have no idea in a million years why. But he also didn't like our sea witch Saskia. For obvious reasons.
And I'll say, like, there isn't there isn't a lot of like clues as to why he doesn't like you. Like, you shouldn't know. Like, it shouldn't be like obvious to you.
Mm-hmm. I just assume that I look intimidating, and he's a little scared of me, and that's why he's being apprehensive. But he did let me leave with a cool magic item, as well as one for all of us. We had a fun time looking through his hoard and choosing things that we like. Septimus was able to pick one of 3 fancy new staffs, and he chose the one that did some Healy stuff, which is pretty cool. Can't tell you the details, but I'm sure it'll come up in future sessions.
It's a staff of healing, which is an actual D&D item.
Oh, cool.
But instead, because he's a sort of a machine priest, he can use the healing spells on constructs when ordinarily you can't use them on constructs.
Yep, that makes sense. It's like a staff of mend healing, or some crazy stuff like that. Or it like uses electricity like a defibrillator. I don't know. But Saskia got a Pearl of Power, secretly recommended by me on the back end. I got a Headband of Intellect, which is going to be a big help for my spellcasting in the future. Although, as an Eldritch Knight, I don't find too much use for spellcasting. But at least it lets me cast Green Flame Blade a little bit more, I hope. And,
and things like your Ray of Frost will have a better hit chance.
True. Bruce got a Rod of Stillness, or whatever it's called, a movable rod.
A movable rod.
That's the one.
And he got an immovable rod and a broken ever smoking bottle.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I have no idea what he's going to use that for.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, what are the stat damage relations to smoke inhalation? You're gonna have to do some research on.
Yeah, and like kind of like you, Fearon, he technically stole the ever smoking bottle in the same way you technically stole the Headband of Intellect.
Stole is such a bad word, Sean.
Borrowed.
I mean, like, I wasn't hiding it. It was on my head when I walked out.
That's true. That's true.
That's his fault for not noticing, to be honest. So generally, that went over pretty well. No complaints from the scary monster, which then turned into a turtle with a spiky staff, which is kind of cool. Shows that he's kind of, even though he's on the younger side, he could transmogrify into a humanoid, which is kind of a slick skill. Looking forward to seeing him pop up somewhere random in the future. Hopefully not someplace too scary. But we briefly discussed the people who are petrified upstairs, and Jaquette had relayed some. Oh yeah, what did Jaquette get?
He got the magic walking stick, which we didn't get to see what it actually does.
Ooh, mystery. All right, cool. But he gave us some information that he got from a book up there that said that the captain was cursed by some deity. I have the name somewhere. Ilmir.
Yeah, that's correct.
Which has something to do with a place in Elysia called Ilmir's Blight.
Bite, B-I-T.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And historically, which I believe I told Jacques this, but Ilmir was an ancient elven deity that is no longer really worshipped and would have been worshipped by the like indigenous elves of Aldhalor in the ancient times. So the ancestors of the Elysians, the ones who were here before Queen Aela sailed across the ocean to Gwenvalir.
Cool. I didn't know she did that.
Yeah, she's originally from Aldhalor.
Wow. So we're getting to see what do you call it? Elysia origins this campaign?
Yeah, 10,000 years ago.
That should be cool. Anywho, we're getting off track a little bit, but that's all right. We didn't save anybody, to Sphyrn's chagrin, but we did. The party did promise to inquire about, recovering these people. Since we didn't have any way of really saving them from this petrification, we figured it was going to be best if we left them there and hopefully got them help in the future. If we talk to the right people, maybe we could find a way to, transfer them away, maybe share it with the governor in a few days. And Sphyrn did what he could to make sure that they're gonna be safe where they are. We got back to the ship. Saskia did a nice job of distributing the loot. She is very meticulous with her scavenging and was able to lay everything out and fairly distribute, which I thought was a nice little nod to her backstory, and was honestly well appreciated from Sphyrn, because he always feels like people are sneaking things off. So it's good to have a little bit of like a quartermaster for the party.
Yeah. She would do well in that position.
Yep. Hopefully we'll see more of that. And then there was a storm on our last day of travel, and it was a little rough goings. Jaquette tried to gamble some more. I think he made a little bit of money. But the big thing that happened was Sphyrn got possessed by a spooky sleep-talky mask that was given to him by Jaquette. He, in his dreams, he imagined this vision, but in fact he was almost knocked overboard because he was walking towards the edge of the ship. Yep. And it was I believe Saskia who knocked him out of it.
Yep.
But you gave very vivid details, which unfortunately I don't remember in character.
Yes. Yeah,
all I know is that there was a temple on top of a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, but you have no idea about the details of it, like whether it was a big one or a small one. Out of character, you know that it was a giant temple on the mountainside, almost like a city.
And there was also a river of darkness, which I peered into and saw the reflection of the mask I'm wearing.
Yes.
Which is interesting to me. Was it like the sort of like a hot spring-esque river, or was it like black, muddy bile or something?
No,
like that?
More of like a hot spring style river, because it was more like the darkness of it was just sort of like how stark it was in contrast to the snowy environment.
Yeah, it was like a small stream or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Yep. So I was saved from that terrible fate through some basic attempts of trying to avoid this. For the future, I hurt myself trying to take the mask off.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Not Sphyrn's finest moment. But eventually we decided to keep watch over me while I sleep. Easier than tying me up, and eventually we got to Stony Heath. Past that, we said goodbyes to the pirates. We met a lovely lift manager by the name of Column, who apparently knows everyone in town. And I wish we honestly had a slower lift ride because I had so many more questions for him. We also met some jerk.
Yep.
I think his name was like Nathan or Nathaniel.
It was Nathaniel, but he hates being called Nathan.
Okay, I'll remember that. He's under the enemies list now, forever and always. And I basically just chewed him out for no real reason. I think he was just rude to somebody, and
He's rude to was it Sass? I think he was rude to, because she asked him a question about like the town.
Right, and then like it was the sort of thing where everybody just jumped on the bandwagon and immediately hated this guy for no real reason. I think Fearn was definitely the most aggressive, and I think I lost him.
Jacquet was pretty aggressive. Like, Fearn started off very aggressive, and then I think you, Sass, and Jacquet got super aggressive, and then Septimus was like, everybody calm down. Come on. All right, get out of here, man. And then Jacquet went into a little tirade about how much he hated this guy after that.
So that was fun. We relearned a little bit about the people in this town. Some of them we had already heard familiar names, but we know that Irving is the foreman, which was the contact that we were supposed to meet by Professor what's-his-face?
Cadmus.
C, maybe? Yeah. So Professor Cadmus told us to find Irving, which is the person that we finished the session arriving at his little spot.
His little foreman office.
Yeah, his office.
Steph in the chat clarified that Jacquet particularly got angry after he tried to introduce the party to Nathaniel, and then also when he called Bruce, continuously kept calling Bruce a child. So the guy was being an ass during all of that, and that's what triggered everyone to being a dick. And Jacquet particularly started the angry response, and then Fearn, I think, escalated it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We know that there's a new mayor. His name is Atticus Leos. We know that the old mayor's name I mentioned, but he's just an old dude, and I don't remember it at this moment, but it's in my notes somewhere. There's Diana Nettle, who is the professor or friend of Sigils, who has been missing for about 4 months in response. Which lines up with the amount of time that I think he told us he hasn't heard from her.
Yeah, roughly. She used to talk to Colum every day, or every week when she would go up and down the lift to deliver correspondence to be sent off.
Right. So that all lines up as, like, Colum's telling us.
It was Albert, was the old mayor.
Albert. Yep. That sounds right. The mayor has a son named Vaughn, who used to be friends with the foreman, Irving. Didn't really expand on whether where the falling out came with. Maybe Vaughn had something to do with the Aradunai. It's my best guess. And yeah, the warden, his name was Irving. He was a half-orc. Foreman? Oh, shit. What did I call him last?
You kept calling him Warden.
Warden.
But he's the foreman of the mine.
Yep, he's a foreman. He's a big head honcho. He's the master miner. And basically, he was a half-orc. He had a funny hat and a sleeveless shirt. And he was very grumpy when we got there.
Yes, as he was poring over papers and whatnot and documents, and we ended with him inviting you to somewhere more comfortable to talk about the mines in the situation.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear how the situation is playing out because
Yeah.
we have a general idea of, you know, what the, you know, who the parties are,
Yep.
but we don't know the cause of this strife.
Or the specifics of like where it is currently.
Right, and it really seems like once we get that information, it's hard to say because I know we're getting it from one side, and I don't know if that's the side we want to ally with. It's really going to depend on like what type of information we could dig up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really don't know where you're going with this one, but it'll be interesting to see how the party approaches this this move, because there's a lot of different ways. I was thinking, like, if it's maybe there's a direct approach where we can just go to this, you know, mine and fight whatever needs to be fought. Maybe there's some you know, overarching problem that we're going to need to resolve, you know, politically or, you know, socially before before handling things with physical violence or anything like that. And fear and thinking that this has something to do with the Aradunai is very interested in getting involved, and, you know, I don't know if that's a good decision or not, depending on you know, what the future may hold.
Totally.
Shoot, I don't really know. I could guess what's gonna happen.
I want to hear some guesses. Yeah. Let me guide you a little bit, so you're not just throwing out random guesses. So I guess.
All right.
I'm excited for this session because it feels very to a certain extent, it feels very much like the Druid Grove in Baldur's Gate. Less so in that there's an invasion threat to like Stony Heath, and more so like there's something everyone has an opinion about. And there are multiple parties, and you need to decide kind of which party you're aligning with. Are you going to align with the goblins? Are you going to align with the tieflings? You're going to align with the druids. And here it's like you're going to align with the town. You're going to align with the academy. Are you going to align with the Aradunai? And maybe other factors into this, because that's the other thing is like the town may have a different opinion of the whole thing than the university has. And then you know, you have kind of three factions here, and maybe potentially some sub factions within those, because like clearly there's the miners as well. There's the people who own the mine, and so on. Because you've noticed when you walked into town that there were some people wearing miner uniforms essentially, or who are just sort of lounging around, like people who would be out of work because of something like this. So I guess first thing to ask what you might have a guess on is, what do you think is in the mine?
So
there's nothing, there's no clues that have been released other than that the university is interested in it, or the powers that be are interested in it, and the Aradunai have a vestment in it.
So my guess has something to do with whatever Diana Nettle was searching for. I don't remember what her area of expertise was, but
it was in celestial mechanics and religion.
So yeah, I'm guessing that there's some sort of like celestial hieroglyphics or some weird ruin down there that was uncovered by the mining operation, and she was first on site to explore it and find out exactly what it was, and she was able to, you know, get some of that information to the Aradunai, and that's how they knew to come and, you know, get in there, and stop the mining operations. And whatever this rune or, you know, temple or stuff has significance to her studies, or perhaps, you know, the spirits themselves.
So you think she's colluding with the Aradunai to keep the runes in the right hands?
That would be my best guess. Either that, or she wanted only for her own research and ended up getting caught up with the Aradunai schemes of protecting this place. Like maybe she's not working with the Aradunai, but she just wants the knowledge and they can't let her leave and let people know about it because then
so like
the
they
governor
they
will
have
come
her
by.
like they have her hostage because they think if she goes out and speaks on it, it'll bring more attention to it and bring in more authoritative or authoritarian powers.
Yeah, like nobody's gonna believe a mine worker who doesn't know, celestial mechanics from chemistry.
Yeah.
But if it comes from a trusted source from the
university,
it's gonna be more of a problem. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of where she's at. I don't really think that she's just held off in her rune trying to like wait over the problem. I think that she's in some sort of danger and we're gonna have to help her in some way.
So you think no matter what, she's probably in the mines in some way? Because the only other place that you've gotten a clue of where she is you just know where her cottage is. It's in the forest outside of town. So she's either there potentially and just has been holed up, or you think that she's part of this whole situation and she's in the mines themselves.
Yeah, and the situation can also change drastically on her own personality. Like Sigil might have liked her and kept correspondence with her, but if she's anything like Cadmus or some of the other professors we've met, she could kind of be a jerk and be looking out for herself in this situation. And
true.
If that's the case, maybe whatever she's trying to do is harming both parties, the Aradunai and the town. So,
yeah, she could end up being, even though, because especially since they haven't talked to her in a while, like she could be completely different from what Sigil remembered her as, because of whatever she found down here. Interesting. So, with that in mind, what do you think the Aradunai's interest is in it?
See, that's the part that really gets me, because when I see the Aradunai, like, they're not necessarily zealots, but they are trying to expand the power of spirits in the realm.
Yeah.
It's a sort of thing where they believe that these, overarching spiritual powers are good for the realm and, affecting the natural balance, kind of like a druid order or something along those lines, where, the influx of industry and technology is harming, the spirits that be, and it's going to threaten, their way of life, and they're willing to take drastic measures such as holding up a town's, economy in order to prevent that. So it could be something as general as they came wrong place, wrong time, and decided to, just hold up the mine for the sake of holding up the mine, and then found this, strange artifact, as I'm guessing. Or maybe there's a spirit down there that they're looking to protect or have spoken to. The most interesting part of that for me is how they gained control of the mine in the first place. Yeah. Because I know that they're kind of a mysterious group. I don't know how their faction is formed. I've only met a few in the past, and they basically have control of the town. They're holding it by the balls, for lack of a better term. And I'm interested to see like what their leadership's values are, because they've taken a very aggressive stance and they've shown that they're a threat to be reckoned with, and I want to see how that's gonna how they got to that power and what they're planning to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because based on your interactions with Aradunai members or Aradunai adjacent people, it does seem like a very decentralized organization. Like they there may not be like the equivalent to the governor or the equivalent to Mr. Greaves for the Aradunai. And that almost makes them more dangerous to a certain extent, but also makes them a more nuanced organization to a certain extent also, because from your interactions with people, you've learned there's so many different reasons someone might be an Aradunai. They might be an Aradunai simply because they are a druid, and they just are a druid and have druidic values. They could be an Aradunai because they are an anti-industrialist, and just don't believe they're an agrarian, or they don't believe that the industry is good for society. They could be they could be, for lack of a better way to put it, an elemental rights activist to a certain extent, of like, you are binding storm elementals to generators to power your city. Like, that is immoral. Kind of like the things Bruce has occasionally mentioned is how, like, the morality of elemental binding. Or they could simply be, they could also be hell, they could be a posh rich kid who's cosplaying as an activist as well. Like, there's so many different ways that the Aradunai can manifest, that I think this is going to be interesting to see the party interact with a truly like active group of Aradunai, because you've really only talked to, you spoke to Fiora briefly, and she was cryptic, and she's sort of like it's weird, and maybe I've just been playing too much Cyberpunk, but I'm realizing that she's kind of the Johnny Silverhands of the Aradunai. Like, she's a musician who is known to have an affiliation with a organization that is slightly outside of the law, except she hasn't, dropped a nuke on the governor's mansion.
Well, the interest in the organization for Fear in my character is because of his brother, who had mentioned in a note that he has something to do with this organization. And a lot of this is a mystery to Fear, but he is searching this out, not necessarily to see his brother, but to see what type of trouble he's getting himself into nowadays. Yeah. It's the sort of thing where he's probably going to take this knowledge, whatever this may be, and, whether it's true or not, compare it to his brother's, ideologies and lifestyle, and try and figure out why he's, aligning himself with these people. It would be nice to meet him someday, but I don't think this is the case. It's the sort of thing that they haven't been in touch for a long time, so it's hard to say where he's doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too that I imagine is something that would be heavy on Fearn's mind while he's while you're just walking through this town, is you have no idea your brother could be beneath your feet right now in the mine. Like, you don't actually know. That's something that I think is interesting for Fearn, is like there might be several emotions going on all at once. Maybe it's excitement over the possibility. Maybe it's dread, fear. What happens if things go south and my brother's amongst them? Like that's a significant part of Fearn's experience for this particular quest.
Well, I'd say generally from Fearn's perspective is he goes where the power is. And he sees the governor to be a large force that isn't necessarily, he's representing at this moment, but isn't necessarily powerful in this exact situation, but definitely, a force that could really affect, things around here, and he doesn't want to mess with, as well as the Aradunai, which he sees as this kind of strange shadow organization. I think he has a lot less respect or inclination to help the townspeople, although most people would say that is kind of like an evil trait. He's kind of like generally saying, I think that there needs to be order and there has to be some sort of organization, whether it be the governor or the Aradunai, taking care of this town. And as for, where his brother stands in all this, I would say it's not ambivalence, but it's the sort of thing that he knows that his brother is powerful.
Yeah.
And if this organization is, with him, then they must be powerful as well. And he trusts his brother in that way. I don't want to spoil too much, but I would say that the general idea or knowledge between, Fearn and his people is they have a mutual respect for each other. They don't always agree or interpret their code in the same ways, but he knows that when it comes down to it, they can put their differences aside and, ally themselves with each other for the sake of the code and the continuance of their mutual tradition. So he has a lot of respect for anybody who is from the north and, any group or allies that, connect themselves with it. So that's points in the Aradunai's favor, at least as Feared.
If that's the case,
Yep. So, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Now, your party has experienced a direct confrontation with another influencing faction in your meeting with Captain Hastings. So, do you think that what do you think is going to happen if your party does decide to just sort of like approach the Aradunai for negotiations or discussion, given the sometimes chaotic nature of the group? I'm particularly thinking about one, Septimus's disdain for elementalists. Two, Jacquette's tendency to align himself to the most powerful person in the room, not necessarily the most powerful person in the region, and Sass's desire for purpose. Do you think these things will be a problem for Bruce and you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of maybes. I would say that the party is starting to, even though we have been a group for a long time, we are starting to understand each other a little better, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the overarching stress between, our opposing ideals is kind of coming to a lull at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if this situation is going to bring up, bad blood. It might, but I would say that Fearn is, because this has something to do with something that's important to him, like in other situations that we've seen, with the spirits that we saw at Billowgrass and, the raccoons that we found in Septimus's farm, they had to do with the spirits, but they weren't things that were directly affecting Fearn. It was the sort of thing where it always just felt like he was there to do a job for them. And in this time, he's got a little bit more personal invested interest. So I think he would definitely want to make his voice heard in the group a little bit more. Not necessarily jumping at an opportunity to go against the group. But I think that he would definitely take a more serious stance in at least hearing both sides of the story out before jumping to a conclusion. I think that this won't be a problem with everyone except Saskia, because Fearn definitely thinks that she has an impulsive nature and is quick to make decisions without getting all the information. And that's definitely something he's going to be looking forward to in the future. But, there's a lot of ifs. I don't know what's going on.
It's true. It is a big if.
There's even more ifs if you consider that he's getting night terrors and probably won't be sleeping for a while.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Sass is interesting too, because she's she may be impulsive, but it's almost weird. It's almost like her patron is starting to tighten the grip and, for lack of a better way to put it, leash her more. Not unleash her, leash her more.
Right.
Where, the closer you are to the sea, the more powerful the patron is, and the more powerful the patron's grasp on Sass is, and you're still very close to the sea at Stony Heath. You're not like when you were out in the farmlands of Billowgrass, where her patron almost was like erratic and couldn't really focus, which made Sass very erratic and unfocused. Potentially being close to the sea is what will make Sass less impulsive. Even thinking about like how she was much more focused on the scavenging mission. It's interesting to see her dynamic shift based on location and proximity to her patron. So I'm curious to see how she is in this town, given that the patron also just said, like, you need to figure your shit out, and focus more. And given everyone else, I mean, Jacquette is always a very, like, controlled chaos. Like, he's not as impulsive, but he is chaotic, interestingly, in an interesting way. And Septimus, I think, is pretty good at holding his tongue in a situation where there's things he disagrees with, unless something really egregious comes out in his mind.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Septimus really approaches this situation. I'm looking to see more, of his ideologies as things, unfold here. That would be really cool. I think Jacquette is just waiting for his right time to make cash at this point. Like,
yeah.
He like you said, he's looking for the person who's strongest in the room. He wants to make the deal that's gonna, make us the most, wealth, which honestly is something that Fearon can appreciate as like a sort of mercenary himself. Not necessarily always the worst thing, and it can easily be, convinced one way or another in that situation. It's those moral dilemmas that are building up that I think are going to be more of the contention points.
That's true, especially because I think Jacquette, as cold-blooded as he can be at sometimes, he's very easily swayed by a good story and a good reason to be called a hero, where it's the only thing that seems to be able to override his gold obsession is if he can get specifically heroic fame from it. Not fame necessarily, heroic fame. And I think he views it as investments to leverage later for more gold, but also there's a level of it I think he is driven by a desire to be loved.
True. But yeah, I'm actually really excited for what you were saying about Saskia's character as well.
Yeah.
Because I really want to see where Shannon's going to take it. Mm-hmm. Whether, you've been pressuring her more with her patron to follow its steps and, shorten that leash. And I'm curious to see if Saskia will, continue to try and lash out and, be like follow her own path, or if, this time she's gonna, give it a shot and follow her patron's path, which, is a good thing and a bad thing, I'd say.
Yeah, right.
It's a sort of thing where I'm sure that whatever her patron wants is gonna be the exact opposite of what the Aradunai wants.
I imagine if there's anything to do with a water elemental of any kind inside that mine, her patron's gonna immediately tell her to lick that. Because the fun thing I really enjoyed about Sass's patron is that as opposed to the very first warlock that I DM'd for, I made the patron like key to the overall plot. And not that Sass's patron is like completely divorced of the plot, but she exists in a more roleplay friendly, RPG friendly way to Shannon to do what she wants with the patron, as opposed to like if your patron is like the big bad, or your patron is working for the big bad, or the main opponent of the big bad, like you have to kind of follow a certain story beats for them. And so like Shannon can really be like, all right, I'm gonna empower or not empower my patron through listening or not listening, or I might lose my abilities if I don't listen. It can be more of a traditional warlock experience, I think, than if your patron is too important to the plot, which I think is fun.
Yeah. So I have to check if Shannon's in the chat, which doesn't look like she is. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this episode. But my interpretation that I've been joking with people on the back end is that you've secretly just made her a Disney princess and she's just straight up Ariel. And she used to be the whole story. She used to be a mermaid, had her memories taken away and gained some feet instead. Maybe she was in love with a prince somewhere and they forgot, like it was like a Aesop's fable sort of thing.
I love that
they both
theory.
Forgot about each other, and Tree Love's first kiss will turn her back into a mermaid someday.
Hey, you never know. As I furiously write that down. You would love that.
I know she would. That's why.
That is actually so funny. I mean, I've basically described her patron as very, very, what's her name themed? The bad guy. Ursula, very Ursula themed with being.
That's exactly where I was getting it, and I even got the little coin with Ursula on it, a little boat on the other side, a little doubloon.
Oh my
God. I think
God.
about it every session. I'm like,
that is actually
that's totally what's gonna happen.
Really fucking funny. That's funny. I love it because Mike also has his own theories that are based on his greater knowledge of Aradun because of him being in my first campaign, where he thinks that Sass's patron is the daughter of some important deities, and is like sort of like a demigod, like a fledgling god or something like that. Is what Mike's theory is. As far as like Sass's memory of, she doesn't have any memories. That's the thing that I also love about it, is that I can peel out these little memories, like in the boat in the episode before this, where she was sort of getting the like shape of a memory of what she could presume is herself being bullied by other kids, and then running into the forest and finding a pond where a little eye popped out. Maybe it was the memory of meeting her patron when she was a little girl.
Yeah. And honestly, there's like a lot of open-ended questions there, and I think that you and Shannon have done a great job of like building that sort of environment, because I can see, and like any sort of plot hook that makes your players like start theory crafting about stuff like this is like the best type of stuff for me, because like
Same.
Little things like there's other sea witches out there that have similar powers, and the things that she said to Saskia about her growing in strength, and if she doesn't gain power, something else will overtake her. It kind of shows that there's like some sort of other mysterious under the water power vacuum that's occurring. And
even with Sarud saying, my family for generations ruled these seas until the figures he mentioned came and killed my family and left me imprisoned here. Like there's clearly a lot going on.
Yeah, like it's really building up to something, which I love to joke about, and I think that's also kind of happening with some of our other characters too, like not necessarily as strong, but Fionn in this mysterious mask, as well as his unknown reason for semi-unknown reason for leaving his homeland, and Jaquette with his like, you know, shady business
His
deals
undercover
with
personality, yeah.
mysterious Leonin, who are now officially super jerks compared to Fear, as Fear
Yeah,
considers.
because they sold a cursed mask to him.
It's not necessarily cursed, though. You said it was blessed.
True, that's true. We didn't mention that Septimus did detect good and evil on it, and found that this was not a desecrated item but a consecrated item, and that this curse might be more so about protecting the mask and not protecting the wearer. If I guess is the way to look at it. It's a curse by omission.
It's a really interesting play because you know, Fear doesn't know how to feel about it. It's the sort of thing where, you know, I know this thing is trying to take control of my fashion, like, you know, faculties. So clearly it has to have some sort of evil purpose, you know, if it's trying to kill me. But maybe if I learn more about it, I could figure out a little bit more about its reasoning, and then like it could be a force for good. So
yeah, and I can turn it into a side quest.
Yeah. Or maybe, you know, you know, me thinking way over things, maybe it has something to do with, you know, Fearn's overall quest, you know, to, you know, get stronger and smarter and become, you know, the powerful warrior that he wants to be. Like, maybe this is like his first step into his own story.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, Septimus and Bruce are just, you know, they don't really have anything mysterious going on, but they are building a robot army, which is kind of cool.
they are building a robot army, and also like are like casually, almost just for fun, flirting with a cult.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about the machine people. I guess that's fine because Fearn doesn't really know about them.
True. Oh, so yes, a lot of mystery, a lot of fun, a lot of cool faction-y stuff that I'm excited to see what you all do with tomorrow and beyond. But we are coming to the end of the hour. Any other thoughts or guesses or predictions from you, Clayton?
I predict that next session we will be making lots of references to a pop idol from the 80s.
Okay.
Not telling you which one.
I can't wait. I can't wait to find out, or to forget, and then halfway through the session be like, what?
Everybody else who hasn't watched this is going to be confused about what's going on. So
that's true. It's going to ultimately just be you making references.
Yeah, I'll just be facilitating it.
All right. Well, with that final prediction, that is going to be the end for the Power Hour tonight. Thank you, Clayton, for stepping in for Shannon, who's not feeling so well tonight. And Shannon, we hope you feel better if you listen to this. And yeah, thank you everyone for hanging out with us. We're gonna send a raid on over to So Maddie Games and call it for tonight. So join us tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time for the next episode of Adrift in Aldhalor. And you can also catch us on YouTube if you want to watch the previous episodes of the campaign. We also have most of the recaps in our Discord for this season, so you can get a catch up. But yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you all tomorrow, hopefully. Bye.
See you.